And after years of emotional wounds, people stop separating themselves from the struggle. Hey guys, thank you for coming back. The version of you keep running to. This is the last episode. So have you ever noticed that even when your life starts changing, your mind still tries to pull back? And like maybe externally things look different, but internally you still hear the old thoughts, the old insecurities, the old shame, the old fears, the old reactions. And maybe nobody around you fully sees it. But internally, you're exhausted from battling thoughts like, what if I never fully change? What if I'm just who I am? What if I'm always going to struggle like this? What if it doesn't matter if he or she loves me? And what's hard is you genuinely love God and you genuinely want growth. But emotionally, you still feel pulled back and by old versions of yourself. And honestly, that tension wears people out because many of us, many humans, are trying to live transformed externally while still speaking to themselves like a broken version internally. This is Right Over Coffee, and today we're talking about identity because some of you, me, are trying to become someone different while still emotionally agreeing with who you used to be. Until your identity shifts, your life will constantly feel divided between who you were and who God is calling you to become. So come stay with me, final episode of this series, and let's begin with the struggle of wanting change but still feeling like the old you. So let's sit in here just a little bit longer because this is where so many people quietly struggle. And a lot of people genuinely want change. They pray about it, they ask God about it, they cry about it, they talk about it, but emotionally, they still feel trapped inside this old version of yourself and themselves. And the disconnect becomes exhausting. And so, because externally, maybe things look different, but internally, the battle, old thoughts. You still question yourself. You still overthink. You still feel insecure. You still feel rejection. Still wrestle with emotional reactions you thought you'd outgrown. And honestly, that becomes discouraging. Because eventually you start asking, why do I still feel this way? Why do old thoughts still keep coming back? And why do I still feel insecure so loudly? And this is where people quietly begin doubting transformation, not because they don't believe God changes people, but because they expect a transformation to feel faster emotionally. But come on, real human here, being human, this is what it sounds like internally. I thought I healed from this already. Why does rejection still affect me so deeply? Why do I still compare myself to other people? And why do I still need reassurance all the time? And sometimes the struggles get heavier because you start feeling guilty for still struggling. So now not only are you battling insecurity, guess what? You're also battling shame for still having insecurity. And people don't talk about this enough. Because many Christians silently feel pressure to appear spiritually strong all the time. Like if they were still wrestling emotionally, it somehow means they're failing spiritually. Friend, growth is not pretending the struggle disappeared. Growth is learning how to walk differently while struggling still exists. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new one is here. Notice something important. That verse says the new has come, even before you fully feel emotionally, because transformation, again, begins spiritually before it becomes fully visibly emotionally. So let's take a minute, grab your notebook. What old version of yourself, are you still emotionally agreeing with? And what labels do you keep repeating internally? And are you speaking to yourself from truth or from old wounds? I mean, for real. Just be real, okay? Because many people build their identity around their pain. This one goes really deep emotionally, guys. After the hurt, people stop saying, I experienced pain, and start saying, the pain is who I am. Have you said that to yourself? Have you felt that way? Because I guarantee some way you have. And real human struggle here is somebody struggles with anxiety for years and eventually stops believing peace is possible. And someone experiences repeated rejection and eventually starts believing they are difficult to love or not worthy. Someone grows up constantly criticized. And now every mistake feels like proof that they're not enough. And after years of emotional wounds, people stop separating themselves from the struggle. Guys, please, this is what it's going to sound like, okay? Because we're going to dig a little bit deeper in this human struggle. I'm just anxious. I'm just broken. I'll probably always struggle with this. This is just my personality. And honestly, that mindset is dangerous. Completely dangerous. Because once pain becomes your identity, people stop fighting for freedom. Why? Because you don't fight what you believe you are. Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world. Be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Transformation begins in the mind, meaning before your life changes externally, your thinking has to go internally. Again, humans here. What painful identity have you attached yourself to? What thoughts have you keep replaying in your mind just daily? And what emotional wound are you still speaking louder than truth? Transformation is often slower than people expect. This is where many people quietly become discouraged, isolate, run away. Because most people want transformation to happen like that. One prayer, one breakthrough moment, one emotional church service, and suddenly everything changes overnight. But honestly, that's usually not how transformation works. It's not. Human to human, most growth is gradual, right? I mean, our kids didn't just walk one day. They fell. And gradual growth can feel frustrating because emotions want immediate results. You still get triggered sometimes. You're still overthink sometimes. You still have moments where insecurity rises unexpectedly. And immediately your mind says, see, nothing's changed. You're still that same crappy person that somebody said you were. But growth is not measured by whether a struggle exists. Growth is measured by how you respond. Philippians 1:6. And I'm sure of this, that he who began a good work, and you will bring it to completion at day of Jesus Christ. Completion means process. Process takes time. So what progress have you been overlooking? Are you expecting instant instead of honor, gradual transformation? You cannot become someone different while feeding the old version of you. I am speaking from experience. Ask anybody that knows me. Many people say they want transformation, right? While still feeding that mindset, habits, and environments. Guys, you want transformation? Stop drinking. Stop hanging out with the people that you constantly have to call. You have to constantly have a relationship with. You constantly have to. Stop your addictions. It's not easy. I'm not saying this because it's easy. I have family that are addicts. It's not easy. It's not easy to say, but God, and get out of God's way. It's not easy. It is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. It is the hardest thing that any of us will have to do. But you cannot transform while still feeding that same mindset, same habit, and same environment, because it's destroying you. It's destroying the people around you, and it's destroying yourself. So, you want peace, but constantly consume that chaos? You want discipline, but avoid accountability? You want emotional stability, but keep feeding emotional triggers? And eventually, you become so exhausted trying to grow in environments consistently and constantly pulling you backwards. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. Environment matters. What you feed grows. Listen. Back in the day, because my past doesn't define me, so I don't really mind opening up about my past. Back in the day, I would go out with my friends and I would go out and hang out. Pool hall, dance hall, technically a bar. I did things that I'm not proud of, but I wouldn't be here today being able to talk to you about this if I didn't experience it. So if you think that you can transform and then still do your same thing, whether it's bar hopping, whether it's getting drunk, whether it's sleeping around, whether it's that alcohol, that toxic behavior that you're used to in a relationship, if you think that you're going to grow, it's just not going to happen. But when you make that choice, when you're ready, you're not a failure. You're not any less of a person because you still fed that. It just means you weren't ready. And that's okay. That is okay. You're not ready. But when you are ready, ask yourself, just ask yourself these questions. What are you feeding emotionally every day? What environments keep strengthening the old version of you? Just ask yourself those questions when you're ready. I'm not saying you're not ready, and I'm not saying you're ready. It's only you. Intentional living requires daily decision. Intentional living sounds inspiring until you realize it requires consistency. And honesty, consistency is difficult. I was the worst because emotions change daily. Some days motivation is high. Others days feel emotionally exhausted. Galatians 6:9, guys. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will recap if we do not give up. Due season means results are often delayed. Human to human, some mornings you won't feel that discipline. You won't feel disciplined. This is what you're going to feel: tired, unmotivated, emotionally drained. But intentional living means you keep choosing wisely. You chose to get out of bed. Even when your emotions disagree, you got out of bed, friend. You got out of bed. So where are you depending on motivation instead of discipline? It's a good one. It's a good thought process there. Just write it down, pause this, think about that. Stop seeking validation from people who don't create you. All right. Many people's identity, is still controlled by other people's opinions. I've always said this, Rachel Hollis has said this, somebody else's opinion is none of your business. One compliment lifts them, one rejection destroys them, one ignored message ruins their confidence, and slowly, their worth becomes attached to a human response. Because that's where you feel validated. And that's not true. Because Galatians 1:10, for I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. People are inconsistent. God is not. People are inconsistent. God is not. People are inconsistent. God is not. So how much of your self-worth is controlled by other people's opinions? Sit in that. Sure, I'm going to get some phone calls. Not good. You can't heal while constantly returning to what breaks you. Some people pray for peace while repeatedly returning to the environments that are destroying them. I've already talked about that. We won't make that a habit. Returning to your toxic conversations, returning to that unhealthy coping, returning to emotional chaos. And every time you reopen a wound, you ask God to heal. Every time. Proverbs 4:23 states, "Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the spring of life." Protecting your peace is wisdom. Yes, sometimes I can't say big words. It's okay. Don't hate. So what keeps you pulling backward emotionally? And what boundaries do you know you need but avoid? Because it won't be good, won't feel good. Because you can't get drunk, because you can't get high. Becoming indifferent feels uncomfortable at first. It's gonna feel. Many people think discomfort means failure. That is the biggest lie you're telling yourself, and biggest lie somebody else is telling you. It is. Healing, because as humans, we feel like healing feels unfamiliar, peace feels unfamiliar, discipline feels unfamiliar, and sometimes people sabotage healthy things. We do. Don't lie. Don't lie. Because dysfunction feels emotionally normal. Isaiah 43:19 states, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do not perceive it." Growth often feels unfamiliar before it feels natural. So, are you mistaking unfamiliarity, again, big word, for failure? Are you? Your life is moving in the direction of your daily choices. So, your future is mostly built in repeated daily decisions. Truth, people. So you and I, the small compromises, the small disciplines, the small habits, but eventually those small things become your direction. Like Luke 16:10 says, "One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much." Little choices matter deeply. So the question is, what direction are your current habits creating? What environment? What? You are not who you used to be. If you truly are changing, you truly want the change, hear this clearly today. You are not the same person you once were. Even if the growth feels slow, even if the struggle is still existing, transformation is still happening. Ephesians 4:22-24. To take off your former way of life, the old self that is corrupted by deceitful desires, to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to put on the new self, the one created according to God's likeness in righteousness and purity of truth. Maybe before, human to human, one bad conversation ruined the entire week. Now you recover. You recover the next day. Maybe before, you completely shut down emotionally when you're hurt. But now you communicate instead of disappearing. And maybe before, you ran toward unhealthy coping environments, people, anything, every time your life got heavy to numb that pain. But now you pause before making that decision. Maybe before, you hated yourself after every mistake. But now you're learning how to give yourself grace while still being accountable. And that, my friend, matters. People overlook those things because they are waiting for dramatic transformation. But honestly, most transformation happens quietly, slowly, in repeated small moments. It happens when you choose differently, even when your emotions are so loud. They're so loud. It happens when you stop agreeing with the old version of yourself. It happens when you stop feeding into the identity connected to your wounds. And some of you don't even realize how much you've grown because you're so focused on how far you still have left to go. Friend, please. This is where people quietly struggle. What if I never become who I'm supposed to be? Because you're thinking too far ahead. What if I always battle with those thoughts? What if I always feel emotionally behind everyone else? And honestly, those fears are so heavy, especially when you compare your process to other people. But healing and growth are not competitions. They're not competing against each other. And transformation is not about becoming perfect overnight. It's about becoming intentional daily, little by little, choice by choice. Friend, you got this. So let me ask you, where have you grown emotionally that you haven't given yourself credit for? What old version of yourself are you still expecting to see? And what would happen if you stopped speaking to yourself like you're still trapped in who you used to be? Because sometimes the biggest thing holding people back is that they emotionally keep returning to the identity God is already trying to move them beyond. So let me leave you with this today. Some of you are exhausted, not because you're failing, but because you keep fighting yourself while trying to grow at the same time. You want the transformation, but internally, you still speak to yourself through shame. You want peace. You want it so bad, but emotionally, you still expect chaos. You want to move forward, but part of that mind still believes you belong in the old version of your life. And honestly, that tension can wear people down. Because eventually you start feeling stuck between the two versions of yourself. Which one? Good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. And that person you're trying to become, it's just listen. Growth is not about pretending the old version never existed. It's about no longer letting that version lead your life. You are not defined by your past. You screwed up, you made mistakes, you were, excuse my language, you were promiscuous, you were this and that. That is not who you are today. You are not every mistake you made. You are not every emotional reaction you regret. You are not every failure, and you are not every insecure thought. You are definitely not disqualified because your process has taken time, because transformation often slower than emotions want it to be. But slow growth is still growth, friend. Every single time you choose discipline over impulse, truth over insecurity, intentionality over emotional chaos, you are becoming someone different. Quietly, slowly, repeatedly, one day at a time. You're going to look back, friend. You're going to look back and you're going to realize the things that once controlled you emotionally don't hold that same power anymore. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because you stopped allowing old identities, emotions, and wounds to define who you're becoming. That is one of the most beautiful parts of growth. Not becoming perfect, but becoming intentional. Guys, this has been Right Over Coffee. And we talk about things that are hard and honest and oh my gosh, emotional sometimes. And let me remind you, you don't have to do it alone. And if this spoke to you, don't just listen to it. Sit with it. Share it with somebody that's probably going through something. Reflect on it. And start becoming intentional with your life, your mindset, and identity you're building daily. And if you need to talk to someone alongside you, I offer personal and grief coaching. All you have to do is click on this link, elizabethkgreen.com. Thank you for being a part of this series with me. I've really enjoyed this with you guys, and I'll meet you back here soon. If you really love this episode, this was brought to you by Mains by Miriam. She's in Kennedale, Texas. Life gets busy, stress gets heavy, and sometimes you forget how important to slow down and intentionally take care of yourself. Mains by Miriam is more than just hair. It's about confidence, self-care, intentionality. Because taking care of yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. 682-417-4260. Book your appointment today. Take that intentional step for yourself. You deserve it, my friend. Thanks for joining me. See you. Bye.